Top story this week, Wikipedia goes on strike. What do we want? Let me just check. Let me just look that up. Oh, shit, I forgot Wikipedia's gone down. I think it has something to do with the internet. When do we want it? I don't know. Let me just check. Oh, for sake. I think it was soon, but I'm not sure. Shit! Andy, Wednesday must have been a very difficult day for you because Wikipedia went on strike and blacked out the entire site. What did you do, Andy? Had you prepared? Had you printed out some pages of completely useless information to use like methadone to ease yourself through the withdrawal symptoms? Or did you just strap yourself into a chair and then stare into a fire and hope that you could somehow make out trivial facts in the patterns of the flames? What's that one? Oh, I think the flames say that Chris Akabusi had 4 middle names. That's interesting. What's that one? Oh, I think those flames say that almonds are actually a member of the peach family. That's interesting too. What's this one? Oh, Deborah Winger was the voice of E.T. That's it. Oh, who am I kidding? I've got to get back online now.
Well, John, I'm not going to deny it was a dark day. It was a difficult day. It was a day when the search for truth and the search for falsehood alike both seemed destined to end in mutually assured destruction. But I got through it, and to help myself get through it, I launched briefly on the Bugle Twitter feed Wifipedia, in which I asked the Bugle's Twitter followers on the @HelloBuglers feed for questions for my wife to answer. Now, my wife at the moment was trying to do some work, and so Wikipedia very nearly destroyed my marriage. I might have seemed a well-meaning strike to you, Jimmy Wales, but it brought havoc to the Zaltzman household.
So what happened was Wikipedia and a host of other sites, including Reddit, Mozilla websites, Boing Boing, and I quote, the entire cheeseburger network, which I believe is mainly pictures of cats, went dark, and that's not a joke, that's actually a fact, went dark on Wednesday to protest against proposed legislation in the US called SOPA, or the Stop Online Piracy Act, as well as its counterpart, the Protect IP Act, or PIPA for short. Oh... Pippa, what have you done, Pippa? Or to be more accurate, what are you proposing, Pippa? Naughty Pippa. Naughty, naughty Pippa. SOPA is a complicated and deeply flawed bill in the long tradition of so many bills in DC, which in essence is designed to stop online piracy, so stopping movie studios and music labels losing money by sites illegally streaming pirated copies. But the problem is that that's very difficult to do, and these bills are definitely not the way to try. It's like trying to stop actual piracy by saying that no one is allowed to look at parrots anymore and arresting any online company that thinks about selling eye patches. It's not going to solve the problem, and it's going to be expensive and impossible to enforce. It means that, basically, in a downloadable podcast like this, were I to sing unlicensed music, which I think we can agree and have already seen, I can occasionally do, like, for instance, if I were to burst into an impromptu blast of Bon Jovi, shot to the heart, and you're to blame, you give love. What, Andy? What does Bon Jovi give love? A bad name.
A bad name. I was also accused of giving my son a bad name.
Well, now, were that to happen, which obviously it didn't, then my mouth would have committed a crime and your ears would have committed a crime by hearing it, and not just musically, but legally too.
Does that mean that your mouth and Bugler's ears could have been put on trial?
Well, I think so. It's not entirely clear, but I think so. In the broadest possible strokes, if the legislation passes, sites would be unable to link to any website suspected of copyright infringement, including sites like Wikipedia, Facebook and Twitter. The problem is that it's one of those situations that is both incredibly important and incredibly boring. And that can be tricky for people to get appropriately worked up about.
Well, proponents say that it protects copyrights and thus the incomes of those who produce copyrighted material. And as an added benefit, John, I mean, if it is passed, it could prevent films, for example, being illegally streamed around the world. It could actually save the world from some of the worst excesses of the American movie industry. I
don't suppose you have any examples of that, do you, Andy?
Well, I don't know. I would just refer Buglers to your CV. Ironically, you could look on John's Wikipedia page to see what this bill could save the world from.
Supporters say that the target is actually illegal foreign sites. But the concept of what is foreign in an internet that doesn't actually physically exist is complicated. The internet instead seems to live in the air, or to quote the late Senator Ted Stevens, in a series of tubes. And the consequences of the legislation would seriously harm a free and open internet, as well as ushering in quite frightening new tools of censorship for international websites inside the US. Now, opponents of the bill here in America say that the internet was built on the same principles as freedom that America was, and it should be afforded the same rights, only presumably this time including black people as well. They weren't clear about that last part.
A Harvard professor said that SOPA would, quote, undermine the openness and free exchange of information at the heart of the internet, and it would violate the First Amendment. To which SOPA's supporters replied, ooh. And the critics of the bills have suggested that it could pretty much cripple the entire internet. And we have to, the internet is flawed, clearly, but it has proved both popular and useful, very much like horses used to be, but more so. And the internet's only helped popularise things like social networking, anti-social networking. Because the internet has given more people more opportunities to tell each other that their mother's a horse than any other development since the invention of human speech.
Or since Caxton and the printing press. Yeah, and I know that's what he largely used it for early on.
Yeah. It's popularised the sharing of knowledge and information and expertise across previously insurmountable geographical and political barriers. It's also popularised the sharing of mindless drivel and breasts and penises and videos of cats unicycling into ponds. So it's been a great advance, and we have to protect it, John. We have to protect the internet. Otherwise, we might have to confront real life. And having not really confronted that for a good decade now, I just don't think humanity can risk it.
That's too dangerous.
Yep.
Now, during the blackout, Wikipedia was still technically accessible on mobile phones and smartphones, and they then made it clear, Wikipedia, that their purpose wasn't to make it impossible to read Wikipedia, saying it's okay for you to circumvent the blackout, we just want to make sure that you see our message. And that's a pretty polite way to go about protesting, isn't it? Not screaming scab at people, merely saying, I completely understand your scab-like behaviour, and I hope that you in turn can see the point that I'm trying to make here. But with the 24-hour blackouts and then later the attacks on websites by Anonymous after the Mega Upload site was shut down by the feds, are non-physical protest, Andy, going to be a new wave of the future? Nerds, or to call them by another name, clever potential millionaires, sitting at home, wreaking havoc and withholding services without once having to get tear-gassed by police? I mean, unless Microsoft, somehow that is, find a way of having a tear gas hole in the corner of your computer screen that can fire off a blast if it senses you're up to no good.
Well, they seem to have struggled to make the menus on Microsoft Word work efficiently, so I think that might be beyond their technological expertise currently.
Take that, Microsoft.
Zing. What was wrong with how it was before?